Hey everybody, it's Lynn, and I'm here to make another background for you. And I'm doing this one because I posted these thank you cards the other day on our site, and everybody wanted to know, how did you make those backgrounds? Well, really and truly, I couldn't just tell you. I just have to show you. It's just mixed media, and really, you can just kind of do whatever you want, and you just keep working on it until you get something that you're pleased with. But I'll show you my steps, and then y'all can take it from there and add to it or delete from it, and I would love to see what you come up with. So tag me if you make some of these, and let me see what you did, okay? The supplies that you'll need for these backgrounds are 3 different distress oxides or distress ink or something that's water soluble that'll work with water, I think is fine. I chose today to work with these 3 colors: Peacock Feathers, Twisted Citron, and Salty Ocean. The other one that I'm going to have around is Black Soot. That's for later. I'm going to set that aside for now. One of the other items you'll need will be some various stencils. These are just some Tim Holtz and various things. You'll want some of those around. You'll want a sponge. However you want to get paint onto this. I just use this one for my white paint, and I know it looks pink, but this is what I use. And some people like to use these little things. I'm sorry if I'm out of the camera range. It doesn't really matter, whatever you want. You might want to have some, excuse my arm, you might want to have some bubble wrap. I did not use bubble wrap on these cards. I totally used stencils, but you might not have some of the stencils that I have, and bubble wrap will work great. So it's cheap. The other thing is you'll want some what I call element type stamps. Today I'm going to use this faded type one from Tim Holtz, but there are other things that you can use. I've got this little wooden one. I've used it a lot, and this particular background stamp with words on it that I think are nice and flowy and not too tight. But those are just some. I'm not using those today, but element stamps. It can be anything. It can be, what are they called? Filigree type stamps and stuff, whatever you want to be your elements. And then you'll need a little paintbrush like this, or however you splatter, black, because we're going to put black splatter on it. And then what I use for my painting on it and black splattering, this is what I use. Maybe that's not what other people use, but it's inexpensive, and this is what I use, and I'm going to show you how I do that at the end when we change them up. So we're going to, and the last thing you need are papers. And what I'm going to use today is this Canson watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds. When you're doing mixed media, you definitely need a heavy paper because it's going to get very wet at times, and so you want it to be able to withhold that water. And then there is, and I just got this one in, and I haven't used it yet, but it's mixed media paper. And can you see that? I know it's kind of close. But anyway, it's 184 pounds. I haven't used this yet, and I'm anxious to try it. My daughter got me some heavy gesso for Christmas, and so I'm anxious to try it with this paper. But for today, I'm just going to use this Canson watercolor paper. Most people have watercolor paper, so that's what we're going to use today. I take one sheet and I cut it up into 4 and just work on 4 at a time with my colors. So it's just 4 even pieces. They're bigger than a card front, but that way I can cut them down as I want to, okay? So I think that's everything. So what we're going to do is, and I have this glass mat here. Ginger had highly recommended this glass mat, so I have this that I work on, and I love it because I can just wipe it down when I'm done. And for today, I went ahead and made up like the starting points of the cards, so I didn't have to use the dryer to dry while I'm doing this. But I'm going to show you how to do it, and then I'll just set that one aside. So what I do is I just take some of this color on each one, and I just put it in a way that I would like it. This is like my favorite colors, Twisted Citron. And I'm not particular, as y'all know. If it gets a little ink from the other colors, I don't really stress over it. So that's what I do to start with. And then I use my spray bottle and I wet it down pretty good because I want that those oxides to work together and move around some. And then I'm going to take the cardstock, and I like the most textured side. That's why I didn't really want to work with the mixed media paper today. It's not textured, so I take the most textured side, and I just lay it in here and do smushing. Y'all know how to do smushing. And as I said, you just kind of work with this until you get something that you like. And so, I mean, that's pretty, but I've got more ink here that I can go back and get some more and just do some other things on it like this. I don't really want to dwell on this a whole lot because y'all understand, y'all, Georgia here, you guys understand the concept of ink smushing, I think. Most of you do anyway, so we'll just go with that. So I'm going to set this one aside to dry on its own so I don't have to use the heater. And I'm going to show you the one that I already have done. So this is what we just did, this step. And this one is, I've heat set it and I've gone back and added a little bit more to it. So it was more smooth all over, but then I went back and dabbed up more paint, more ink, just to give it some more texture, little spots and so forth. You don't have to do that, but you can do that. And I just like to add a little bit to it, but I did it this way so that I didn't have to run the heater. So what I'm going to do, and it's okay, guys, don't stress out over white space. White space is good, but I like to go back and just add a little bit more like this. I just like a little extra to it. So I'm just going to do a little bit here and there with some of the colors that I like. See how I've got a little bit of the Twisted Citron in there. And if I feel like I don't have enough and I want to add more, I'll just tap it down, spray it lightly this time, and then go back and add a little bit more because I really like that color. Can I say that again? I like that color. And I'm really not trying to cover up all the white space. I'm just trying to get a little bit more texture and dimension to it. This part will dry pretty fast. But if you'll notice with oxide inks, they just do kind of keep blending in. They'll just almost disappear on you when you do this, especially if you put the same color on top of the same color. Like this is Salty Ocean. And if I went over here and put a little more Salty Ocean in it, you'll see it for a few minutes, but it's going to disappear here in a little bit. But with that, that's enough on there. I'll go ahead and do this one and put a little extra on it. And I'm pretty rough with this stuff. But see, I just like it, just gives it a little bit more texture, okay? So we've got that. I'm gonna set those aside and I'm gonna clean up this little mess real quick. Now, I'm only doing this for the video because I would not let this much ink go to waste. I would get more paper out and blot it up and smush it and make something with it, but for the purposes of the video, I'll not do that. Okay, my next step will be, once this is totally dry, is to start adding other things to it. So one thing that you can do, so let's say you have bubble wrap and you want to have little dots on there. Maybe you want the little dots on there to be lighter and not darker. So with bubble wrap, you can just wet bubble wrap, lay it on, press it down, and lift it off, and it will take some of the color away. So you get that look, the faded look there, okay? As I said, I didn't use bubble wrap on the other ones. I used stencils, but that works too. And like I said, everybody probably has that left over from Christmas. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna just heat set this real quick. I don't wanna do a lot of that. Oh, by the way, y'all told me to get this because mine died. Oh my gosh, y'all, this is the best little heat gun. I highly recommend it. So thank you for all those who told me about it. It dries super duper fast when you're doing embossing, and you know, I need that sometimes. So let me just dry this real quick. And I'm sorry, it's still kind of morning here, and so my throat's all yucky. But I've already been to the doctor with my mom all the way, 30 minutes away, so I've been up and about. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stencil. I like this one. I did find one on Simon Says Stamp that I really, really like. I've got to order it. And I'm going to stay away from the dots right now, but I want to put some white on here. So what I do is I take this and I hope I can keep y'all all in the frame on this. I'm going to put some white paint down here. Okay, it does take a good bit of white paint to cover stuff, and maybe it's that it takes a good bit to soak into the sponge. And I don't do like a square or anything. I want it to look very random. So I'm just gonna start putting white. I'm gonna get some more because, as I said, my sponge is dry. And you see I'm not following the lines at all. I'm just putting some random white paint on there. And you want it to be fairly thick because you want it to show up. And then once you just lift this off, you have that look on that, okay? Now, I'm not worried about the sponge because I can get rid of that if I have to, but I do try to clean up my stencils right away when they have paint on them because, well, I like my stencils. I want to keep them, but I'm pretty rough on them also. I don't think I need any more white paint, so I'll wipe that up. Okay. So now we've got that little bit of white on there. Okay, then you can take another stencil and let's see. Let's do this one. This will be fun. So this time I'm going to ink directly onto the stencil, and I'm going to go with some of the darker color, the salty blue, and I'm going to put that on there. Yes, I'm going to have a mess on my thing. I'm going to wet it just a little bit so it will go off onto the paper a little bit easier. When it's dry, it's just hard to get it there. And I'm just going to tap it down on my paper. I needed it just a little wetter. But you can kind of see where the circles are, see? What I did, that was just... Now I'm trying to stay a little bit away from the white because it is still wet. So now we've got that little dimension on there, okay? The ink is not critical to wipe off like the paint is off your stencils. It will come off with water because it is just water-based. Let's see, what else are we going to do? And then maybe, again, we're going to let this dry, stay away from the areas that are really wet. I'll get, let's go with the peacock feathers. And on the backs of all of mine, I have these pads on the back so that I can always use them. And I have a couple of those little daubers. And of course I can't find my other one right now, so I'm gonna just take this wet one off. It's really gooey, yuck. In fact, it's so gooey it's starting to come apart. I get messy. Y'all, when I work, I get real messy. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna get a little bit of this blue on here, and I'm just going to, again, I don't want to make lines with it. I just want to randomly put some color in there. So I'm going to try to stay away from the edges because I do not want edges on it. Okay, let me get a little bit more on there. Okay, that one didn't show up that good because it's a little, it's kind of going on the same color, but I promise you, you can see it. Again, I'm staying away from some of the white paint. Normally, I would just let that white paint dry good, but we don't have time today, so, because this video, you know, you can only go so long. Okay, so let me dry it real quick. And the next thing we're going to do is get some of the black soot out, and we're going to do some adding another, what I call layer on here with some black soot. I personally like the black soot to be a little wet after I stamp it on the image. Let's get that image out again. I should have it out. So I'm just going to use this one. And what I do is I just ink it up. Really pretty much just one good time. Spray it lightly with water, and then I'm just going to go around, and remember we're going to be cutting this one down a little bit, so I don't want to go too close up to the edge because I do want some of it on there. And you just turn it different ways. I lied. I'm going to put a little more ink on it. Okay, so we've got that. You could do other things on this. This is how I did these, and that's what people were asking for, okay? Lastly, so I've used my white paint, and now I'm going to use some of my black paint with a paintbrush. So I have a little cup of water here. I like to get my paintbrush wet. And this is a trick that I saw from Christina Werner, and I thought it was actually pretty cool. She puts a little bit of whatever it is she's using to splatter. I don't think she uses the paint the way I do. Am I on the screen? I put a little bit of paint there. That's probably way more than I need. In fact, I'm sure it is. And actually, today, instead of using the paintbrush, I'm going to use a blender pen because it's a little stiffer brush. So I'm just going to wet this down, get a lot of water on it so it flicks easy, okay? And then I'm going to lay my card front in the box. Can everybody see it? And here's this, and I'm just going to flick. I like a lot of flick on it. But I think something about when it catches it on the edge like that, it just flicks better. And I like a lot of black, like I said, okay? That's it, guys. That's how I made the background. I told you it was super simple. I'm not a genius about this. I just watch YouTubes, and that's it. So I want to see what you do, so be sure to tag me if you make one of these backgrounds. This will have to dry, and then I'll cut it down, and I'll make another card out of it. So let me know what you do, and I want to see color combinations because sometimes I get stuck in a rut with my color combinations, and I would just really like to see some cool color combinations. So tell me what you used so I can copy you, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. I hope everybody has a happy new year, and can't wait to see what you do. Talk to you later. Bye.